This marks my first experience. Samantha, my wife, spoke in a barely audible, soft voice, and her face turned deep red, which honestly surprised me as her bashfulness caught me off guard. I became completely captivated by her. However, our relationship hasn't always been like this. I'm Jack Andrews, an ordinary guy employed at a medical device company. In the past, I had dreams and ambitions, but I lacked the talent to pursue them, so I abandoned those dreams. My parents had high hopes for me, encouraging me to carve out my own path, leading me to where I am today. Now, I find myself without dreams or ambitions, and losing those dreams has left me feeling empty without a clear goal. Some might suggest getting married and starting a beautiful family, but unfortunately, I'm a bachelor with no girlfriend. It saddens me that I can't give my parents grandchildren, but I have no choice since I can't provide something I don't possess. As I checked the calendar, I realized that I needed to return home next week. My parents live in the same state, just a short train ride away, so it's not a major inconvenience. However, they called me with a serious tone, indicating that they had important matters to discuss. Judging by my mom's demeanor, it's clearly not a trivial matter. They are usually laid-back parents who rarely ask me to come home, so something significant must have occurred. Finally, the day arrived when I returned to my childhood home after a long absence. My parents operate a diner with their residence on the second floor and the restaurant on the first floor. When I was a kid, I used to proudly talk about taking over the family shop, but I soon realized I didn't have the cooking skills for it, so I gave up on that dream. That's why I felt reluctant about returning home. However, something felt off. The shop was usually open every day except Thursday, but the sign wasn't out. Were they closed today? I called out, "I'm home, Dad, Mom," and walked into the diner. Both of my parents were there, but they looked thinner than usual, and their faces were pale. I hurried over to them and asked, "What's going on with you two?" They explained with downcast expressions. It turned out a family restaurant had opened nearby, causing our diner to lose customers rapidly. Despite my parents' best efforts to turn things around, the customers kept dwindling. When Dad looked into why we were losing so many customers, he found out there were anonymous rumors spreading about our restaurant. People were saying they had seen cockroaches or that the diner was dirty because of its age. These strange rumors were circulating, and there was no way to stop them. Despite everything my parents did, sales kept dropping, and they ended up in debt. Even if they closed the diner, the debt remained, and in the worst case, they might have to sell our home. I saw tears of frustration in my dad's eyes, and his voice trembled. It was a side of him I had never seen before, so I couldn't help but ask, "Is there anything that can be done, at least about the debt?" The debt amounted to $80,000. Dad mumbled with his head hung low. He appeared defeated, as though he had tried everything possible to find a solution. Feeling desperate, I turned to Mom and suggested, "Can't you reach out to your friends for help?" She hesitated briefly before finally speaking up. "Well, I did talk to them," Mom began. "Actually, one of my friends mentioned she might be able to help, but there's a condition." I leaned in eagerly, ready to hear the condition. I was willing to consider any terms if there was a chance of getting assistance. However, Mom seemed reluctant to continue, keeping her head down. Encouraged by Dad, she eventually disclosed the condition. She proposed that I marry her daughter. I was taken aback. "What?" I exclaimed. "You know, I used to attend that flower arrangement class, right? That's where I met her. Her husband is the CEO of a leading company, and their daughter, Samantha, apparently hasn't found a partner, even though she wants to get married. My friend mentioned that Samantha is shy and hasn't been able to find a partner. According to her, if I marry Samantha and become part of their family, she'd be willing to help us out." Dad interjected, concerned about my future. "Jack, you have the right to choose your own partner. I don't want you to make this decision just because of our debts." But I was determined. "No, I'll accept the offer." I comforted my worried mom. I couldn't bear to witness the family business I had grown up with falling apart, and I knew I couldn't take over the business myself. If getting married was the solution to save it, I was ready to do it. Plus, Samantha happened to be a CEO's daughter, a rare opportunity for an ordinary guy like me to have such a connection. There weren't many downsides for me, so I decided to move forward. However, when I met Samantha in person, I couldn't help but have some reservations. The day I met her, I found myself thinking, I understand why she's having trouble finding a husband. She must be shy. Indeed, I noticed that Samantha's gaze often wandered away, as if she couldn't maintain direct eye contact. On the flip side, I found it hard to take my eyes off her. To put it bluntly, I couldn't help but notice her pronounced double chin, which made her appear as if she had no neck. And it wasn't just her neck. She also lacked a defined waistline. Most women have some curves, even if they're of average size, but Samantha had none. If I were to make a comparison, she reminded me of a certain boxy blue robot from the future. I don't like to judge people based on their appearance, but I couldn't deny that her physical appearance left a strong impression. If someone were to ask me if I wanted to marry her solely based on looks, I would have said no without hesitation. However, considering my current situation, I didn't feel I had the luxury to be selective. "Nice to meet you. I'm Samantha," she greeted me with shyness. "I'm Jack. Pleasure to meet you," I responded, trying to be polite. We discussed our situation further and officially became engaged a month later. Marriage was a non-negotiable requirement for repaying the debt. Although Samantha suggested that we don't force ourselves to live like a typical married couple, but find our own way to come together. So we ended up sharing a bedroom, but not a bed. The so-called wedding night hadn't happened yet. Given Samantha's physique, sharing a bed would indeed be a tight fit. Both of us were used to living alone, so it felt a bit awkward initially. But Samantha had always dreamed of being a traditional wife and made an effort. "Good morning. I tried making breakfast if you like," I offered. "Please," she said, attempting to start our day on a positive note. Just before I left for work, Samantha, who had gotten up early, had a delightful breakfast ready. It was quite a spread: chicken soup, fish, and an omelet. A truly hearty meal. The tempting aroma of the food tantalized my senses and awakened my empty stomach. "This is delicious," I remarked between bites. Even though I once aspired to be a chef, I have a discerning palate for food. I can confidently say that Samantha's soup is truly delectable. It's not just the soup. The seasoning of the fish is just right, and the omelet, from its color to its shape and taste, is perfect. The quality is just as good as any restaurant. This is incredible. It must have been challenging to prepare such a high-quality breakfast. As I enjoyed my meal, Samantha's face gradually turned red, and she stammered, I'm glad. Be confident. I'm a diner owner's son after all. Samantha, you're a great cook." With that, I finished my meal, openly expressing my genuine opinion. Samantha shyly hid her face behind the tray she was holding and confessed, "Well, I've never served my homemade food to anyone before. I'm happy, though." Seeing Samantha genuinely happy was charming. They say not to judge a book by its cover, and that certainly held true for Samantha. Beyond her appearance, she had a playful and charming personality. She was so domestically inclined that one could easily forget she was a CEO's daughter. She handled household chores almost flawlessly, except for laundry. The other day, she accidentally turned all my shirts blue while trying to sort them by color. I'm sorry. They turned completely blue, haven't they?" She apologized. A mistake that would have upset me if I had made it somehow became forgivable when Samantha did it. I reassured her. Slowly but surely, I fell in love with Samantha. At first, I wasn't sure how things would turn out, but by the time we had been living together for 6 months, we had grown closer. One day, Samantha came home in tears after a doctor's appointment. Something had come up during her health checkup, and I could guess what it was. "Don't cry so much," I consoled her, trying to comfort Samantha. "I don't necessarily expect us to have children, but with my current figure, you won't be able to hold me, Samantha." Tears welled up in my eyes as I struggled to convey my emotions. I wanted Samantha to understand that I was more than willing to love her just as she was. However, Samantha had made up her mind. She looked at me with determination and declared, "I've decided I'm going on a diet. I want to live a long life, and I want children. I want to walk proudly by your side, Jack." Her resolve deeply touched me, and she blushed as she expressed her intentions. Samantha began her diet journey, and I decided to join her in the effort. After all, I had started to worry about my own waistline. I guess I had put on some happy weight because Samantha's cooking was just too delicious. We began jogging together before work and took evening walks, but as expected, it wasn't easy to keep up. Samantha began to feel disheartened and said, "I can't do it anymore." I couldn't bear to see her lose hope. This was a promise between Samantha and me. If she ever felt like giving up, I would be there to support her. So when Samantha seemed on the verge of giving up, I knew I had to step in. One day, as we were going about our routine, I had a proposal for Samantha and approached her with excitement in my voice. "Hey, Samantha, I have a suggestion," I began. Samantha turned to me curious and asked, "What is it?" I explained my idea, saying, "How about we buy a dress? Here's my plan. I'll buy the dress that you want to wear the most right now. And you, Samantha, will work hard on your diet so that you can fit into that dress. Having a goal in front of you can make the journey easier." Samantha thoughtfully considered the idea and responded, "That might be a great idea. I've never worn a dress before." With Samantha on board, we decided to take our commitment to a healthier lifestyle even further. We agreed to have separate bedrooms. Samantha had expressed a desire to do stretches and yoga at night, and she felt self-conscious about it when someone was watching. She explained, "If I'm being watched, it's embarrassing. If I ever make a request like that, will you fulfill it?" I readily agreed to her request. Samantha's dedication and commitment to her diet were truly inspiring, and I was more than willing to support her in any way I could. 6 months later, our efforts had paid off. By the time we had been married for a year, Samantha had transformed into a remarkably beautiful woman. Her weight had dropped significantly, and her original figure with well-defined curves had re-emerged. Samantha now had a stunning waistline, and she radiated confidence and beauty. One day, Samantha came running to me, her face beaming with joy. "Jack, I'm going to try on that dress today," Samantha said. "Really? I'm going to change in the bedroom. Wait for me here," she added. As Samantha headed to her bedroom, I couldn't help but think about the past year. It was the first time we were going to share a bedroom since her weight loss. I had almost forgotten what her bedroom looked like because Samantha had always been quite strict about keeping me out of it. Samantha's invitation filled me with a sense of anticipation. When I entered her bedroom, I was taken aback by her beauty. There she stood, wearing the red dress I had bought for her. Blushing yet graceful, she looked like a goddess. "This is incredible," I murmured, my eyes fixed on her. "You look stunning." Samantha blushed even more and fidgeted adorably. "Do I look weird?" "Not at all," I assured her. "You're beyond beautiful, Samantha." "Really?" "Truly," I confirmed. Samantha chuckled happily and said, "Oh, stop it, but I'm flattered." I couldn't help but express my concern. "I mean, what if some strange guy comes over when you look like this?" Samantha's smile grew warmer. "In that case, you'll protect me, won't you?" I chuckled in response. I had silently vowed to protect Samantha at all costs. Gently, I closed the bedroom door behind me. As time continued to pass, we embarked on a new journey together. I made a life-changing decision. I took over my dad's restaurant, paid off the debt, and quit. My previous job had been tough, but reviving a restaurant with a tarnished reputation presented an even greater challenge. Nonetheless, through dedication and hard work, we managed to turn it into a popular spot. Every morning, long lines formed outside our doors, and our journey together continued with newfound success. "Samantha, take this to table 5. I heard Samantha call out from the bustling kitchen. "Got it, Samantha," I replied as I navigated the restaurant's dining area. "How's the meal for table 8? "It's almost ready," she replied, her voice tinged with excitement. It was a typical day at our restaurant, and Samantha was in her element in the kitchen. When I had explained the dire situation the restaurant was in, Samantha expressed her desire to have someone try her cooking despite our lack of popularity. "Jack, you've always praised my cooking," she said. "That gives me confidence. To be honest, I'm convinced that if I cook for the restaurant, it will surely succeed." I had unwavering faith in Samantha's culinary skills. She had always enjoyed cooking, even admitting to gaining weight from indulging in her own creations. This quality made her an ideal fit for running a diner. While customer traffic had dwindled, it hadn't disappeared entirely. I appealed to our regulars to give Samantha's cooking a chance. Soon enough, her culinary talents were recognized, and customers began to return. Some even became daily patrons. My role was to assist in the kitchen and handle front-of-house management. I was dedicated to creating an environment where Samantha could fully showcase her talents. In the evenings, I would return to the restaurant, and the store's door would creak as I entered. It was still early for dinner, so the restaurant was relatively calm. In this peaceful atmosphere, a young boy with a backpack walked in. Welcome back, Jake, I greeted him warmly. Dad, I'm hungry. Can you ask Mom to make something? Jake, our elementary school-age son, requested. Of course, I chuckled. Just wait a bit. Our son, always eager for a meal when he came home from school, headed to the kitchen. Watching this scene, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of contentment. At that moment, I was genuinely happy. I had my loving wife, my adorable son, and the privilege of living with both of them in the restaurant. Running a restaurant had always been a dream of mine. Samantha and I had initially married out of necessity due to the debt, and it might not have been considered an ideal match by some. However, from the depths of my heart, I could honestly say, I'm glad I married you. As I reflected on our journey, I couldn't help but feel grateful for the life we had built together. Despite the odds, we had found happiness in the most unexpected of places. Our story was a testament to the power of determination, love, and the pursuit of one's dreams. And with that, our journey continued, filled with hope and the promise of a brighter future.